Watch out, Toriyama's about! And has he forgotten something? Again? Hey guys, MasakoX here. For a very long time now, I've been requested by you guys to make a video about Tien Shinhan. What's he about? What's happened to him? Where is he gonna go? Well, the problem with that is that unfortunately, there's not really much you can talk about. Well, at least not right now. Now, back in the day though, back in the original Dragon Ball, he was an excellent foil and companion to the Z Fighters, and in fact, he's one of the founding members. He became a crucial ally of Goku during the King Piccolo arc, and also he was one of the early examples of a previous antagonist becoming one of Goku's best friends. Android 8 being a very good example too. So what happened exactly? Well, the long and the short of it is, and I'm afraid it's pretty common in Dragon Ball, his arc was done. Much like with Chi-Chi, once Toriyama's felt that he's fulfilled the character's purpose, he kind of just shifts them off to the side and forgets about them for a while. Maybe that's why Launch and Tien Shinhan have been paired so much. They've both been forgotten. Sorry. Most of the time, these characters fade into the background and are only brought back into the limelight either out of desperation, or if someone's reminded the creator of the show that that character is indeed a thing, and they go, oh yeah, that guy. Maybe I should do something with him. Eventually. It's actually really short shrift for Tien Shinhan because he actually heralded in some of the series' firsts. What exactly? Well, how about that whole flying thing? Here's a quote from Toriyama. As the enemies kept getting stronger, using Nyoibo or flying around on Kintoon just wouldn't cut it anymore, so the characters had to start flying themselves. When Tien Shinhan first flew, I remember thinking, hey, this is pretty useful. And when I thought of depicting Ki visually in the manga, it really made things easier, like with the Kamehameha and whatnot. And on reflection, it's not so bad for Tien Shinhan because Toriyama actually did come up with a sort of epilogue. At least it gave him a conclusion, albeit not ideal in the eyes of some of his fans. Stoic Tien Shinhan mainly does farming in addition to his training. He can split into multiple bodies and grow extra arms, so harvesting the crops grows quickly. He was found by Launch, who fell in love with him at first sight and had been constantly pursuing his whereabouts, and even reluctantly lived together with her. But she wasn't cut out for farming, and Tien Shinhan has no interest in romance, so she left after just a few days. After that, it seems Launch apparently stops in from time to time. Now okay, granted, that might have changed a little bit with the introduction of a dojo for Tien Shinhan, as was the introduction of the character Yunin, you are still permitted to snigger at that, either as a second attempt at a love interest, or maybe as a new pupil for which Tien Shinhan can focus his efforts on and maybe develop into something new. Unfortunately though, his early exit from the Tournament of Power really kind of brings the conclusion that really there's not much hope left for this character. If you wish to actually find out more about why Tien Shinhan has been given this really unfair treatment, you can check out Plague of Gripes' video. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Tien Shinhan's situation was particularly interesting because most of his character arc was done before even Dragon Ball Z began. His journey really took stride when he left the path created for him by mercenary Tao and Shen. He then made friends with Yamcha and then became an ally of Goku. And then okay, he fought Drum and rebelled against King Piccolo, proving to be a lifesaver in the eyes of Goku. And don't forget, he did win a Tenkaichi Budokai. After that though, his contributions were somewhat limited. His main arc was completed when he finally defeated mercenary Tao and eschewed himself from his past entirely. Yes, don't worry, I know about Tien Shinhan's contributions in Z. Toriyama did try to do something with him in the Saiyan saga at first, but it just didn't work out. Having Tien Shinhan valiantly sacrifice himself for the sake of the Earth just proved to really be a bit of a bum note, because we know about Dragon Ball Z and death, it doesn't really have a consequence, so we know that he's going to be wished back with the Dragon Balls eventually. In a way, Chaozu's sacrifice was more impactful than his, because at the time, you couldn't wish people back twice. That's why we went to Namek, to try and fix that problem. All this sacrifice would have been much more impactful if it came from another show. And we also mustn't forget the scene in the Cell Saga when Tien Shinhan bravely fought against Semi-Perfect Cell and used the Ki Koho to try and prevent Android 18 being absorbed and allowing her and 16 to escape. That cannot be ignored, and in fact, that action alone could really sum up Tien Shinhan pretty nicely. He is the straight guy, he gets the job done, he will do what's necessary. He wants to become the best fighter possible, but that is the big problem for Tien Shinhan. That real desire is not possible because we got a Goku. His desire to surpass Goku came from the days of Dragon Ball when that was much more possible, but nowadays? Good luck. And if you're thinking that maybe his character can change, his mood can change, he can become a better person, well, it's not really possible because he's already quite stable and a mature character. He does have his moments, sure, but everybody does, but he's really stable. And that's a bit of a problem if you want to try and move that character on, and if you want to change his mood entirely, then that doesn't make him the character that everyone liked. That's a bit of a quandary. Something Toei I don't think is inclined to do, and that was quite telling during the Tournament of Power, as many people considered him to be a waste of space. And yes, he was able to help his team somewhat and had a decent send-off, and it was actually pretty cool, but at the end of the day, his performance was average in comparison to some of the other characters. I can't help but feel that Toriyama's really written himself into a corner with Tien Shinhan, and Toei has absolutely done nothing to help him. That might have been a possibility at the end of Z, because Tien Shinhan, he was pretty much absent. Now you could chalk this up to him training with Chaozu, because he does tend to do that a lot, being on his own, but that kind of sums up the character really. He's too stern to have a proper friendship. He won't just drop everything to then herald a social call. He just doesn't do that. You gotta go to him. But, I mean, out of all this, surely if you can't change the character entirely, at least give him some new tricks. To see some of his classic moves again in Super was pretty cool, and I appreciate that the show's creators were willing to acknowledge the past, but really, he should have had something else as well. Something to do with his martial arts skills that meant that he developed something new, a new technique as it were. Because Krillin was able to come up with the Solar Flare times 100. Just look at what they did with Roshi. Of all the people in Team Universe 7, Roshi has become one of the most beloved and developed characters in the entire arc. Going from where he was to where he is now? That is a big deal! Roshi's been around for 30 years, and we all thought he was just going to be the same old pervy guy for all of that time. But no, he's genuinely changed. It actually stuck. We thought, oh, it's just a flash in the pan. But right now, it seems genuine. His improvement actually meant something. It left everybody proud of him, even the likes of Beerus, and you know how hard he is to please. Now that I think about it, Tien Shinhan actually seems to be the only member of Team Universe 7 that doesn't have a secondary goal in the tournament. He isn't trying to improve himself like Krillin or Roshi, he isn't trying to rebuild family ties like with the androids, nor does he actually have any kind of scheme at all. He's just there. He's only there because the team wants him there because he's somewhat good at martial arts, and that's kind of worrying. In his friend's eyes, his martial arts skills are all that he's good for, and that's kind of bad because in real life, if you're only called upon something because you're good at that and nothing else, then that is a major red flag. Please, Toei, give Tien Shinhan some new motivation for the future. Give him something else. Maybe we got that with Urine, but it's too early to say. Now, speaking of guys who are there for others, we gotta talk about Piccolo. And yes, I know that you're gonna say that Piccolo is far more interesting than Tien Shinhan, and he's participated so much more in Super, and also not forgetting his relationship with Pan is just the most cutest and adorablest thing ever. But other than that, we basically know the drill with him. He's basically there to be Gohan's lackey. He then helps Gohan when Gohan comes into trouble, Gohan can't dodge, Piccolo sacrifices himself, rinse and repeat. In fact, it's become a bit of a joke in the fandom. Something that we at Team 4-Star have totally not capitalized on. Nope. No. We've not resorted to that joke at all. And of course, there's the whole thing about Piccolo not being around at the end of Z, trying to explain that, but that is actually kind of somewhat doable. And honestly, this guy needs a life of his own. And that actually may come around with the introduction of the Universe 6 Namekians. And why? Because there is a chance for Piccolo to develop some more, much like how the Universe 6 Saiyans are a good chance for Vegeta to develop some more. Maybe Piccolo and Vegeta can embark on a journey towards self-fulfillment. And hey, it might not be such a crazy idea that Piccolo gets another chance to fuse with another Namekian from Universe 6, making him even more relevant towards the Z fighters going forward in Super. Don't get me wrong, he is still a major player in the second tier of fighters, but really Piccolo deserves to be with the big boys. And I wish we can actually get some arcs more centered around him instead of him being just a carer for the likes of Pan. It's adorable and I absolutely love those arcs and seeing how Piccolo's become so chill, but really he needs more about him. Not just him being a foil to someone. Characters with such a large fan base like Piccolo really deserve something more from Super instead of just being a running gag. And yet, there is still one more character that has proved even more troublesome for the likes of Toei than either Tien Shinhan or Piccolo, and I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, of course, Majin Buu. I mean, we didn't even see him in the Tournament of Power. Why are you talking about him? That is just the thing. Because they've not used him in the Tournament of Power, they of course resorted to the whole sleep gimmick again. I remember all of that far too well. Let's not forget about that Skinny Boo episode. That was the biggest example of a bait and switch. At the time, it was something amazing and proved to actually make a lot of sense. It was both character development, something new for Majin Buu, and an excellent opportunity for Toei to make a quick buck. New figures, new merchandise, it seemed perfect. It turns out it was just a punchline for a joke, and it really did not sit well, nor did it land. At all. The problem with Buu is that he is very similar to the likes of Tien Shinhan, in that he has no additional motivation in which to grow. Yes, he is quite powerful, and don't get me wrong, his healing abilities would have been absolutely crucial in the Tournament of Power. He could have been a real help to Goku after he'd used Ultra Instinct twice over, healing him up, so that means he could be ready again almost immediately. But if he were there, then I feel like his motivation for being there would have made the whole thing seem somewhat off. I remember the reaction when we found out that Buu was going to be replaced by the likes of Frieza, and everyone was up in arms. And that all came off the back of the disastrous Resurrection F arc. The guys over at Super seem to have a pretty good handle as to what they're going to do with the likes of Frieza, so ultimately, I think everyone's okay with that now. Going back to the end of Dragon Ball Z, we see Buu this time, but we actually see that he's not really developed much. In the 10 years after his own arc, he's not really gone through any major personality changes. Okay, he might have gotten a little bit stronger over that time, but we can't be sure. And because of that, there just aren't any really good hooks to really bring him into the Universe Survival arc. I just don't really see where Buu would fit with all the drama that's been going on in the Universe Survival arc. He's just too happy-go-lucky. Buu would have just been childishly indifferent, and that would have been a big worry. And we kind of got that vibe during the exhibition match, because Buu wasn't taking this whole thing seriously. He fell asleep. In the Tournament of Power, that whole thing would have gotten really annoying. Also, we kind of know Buu's future already thanks to the likes of Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Online. But in terms of the timeline, it's still too early for Buu to have his family yet, and until we actually see that in Dragon Ball Super, that's pretty much it for Buu. But let's not forget what they tried to do for Buu in GT. While being far less than perfect, GT at least tried to give Buu a proper send-off and actually him contribute somewhat. Even though Maju was grossly underused, him reconnecting with Majin Buu was a really interesting plot point. I feel like Toei's learned something from that, and I don't think it's a good lesson. It's just meant that they're not going to take risks anymore. They're just going to keep Majin Buu the way he is because people like him somewhat, and that he is profitable. That is it. However, there is a plot point that could be quite intriguing, and it all has something to do with Kid Buu. Because a lot of characters have been stating that having the likes of Kid Buu in Universe 7 seems pretty odd, that there is just one bad egg, that universe just so happened to have that one demon. Maybe there are other deadly Majin lurking around in other universes, so once all these powers actually go back to their respective universes, something might be awoken, because at the moment the World of Void is its own thing, away from the universe, but once that barrier is gone, who knows? After all, he does have some experiences with fighting evil versions of himself. Now let's bring this all back to the whole thing concerning character arcs. I believe that it's the logical solution that once a character's reached the end of one arc, that a whole new arc should be brought in for them. Something that keeps them true to themselves, but actually gives them something new as well. I think the likes of Tien Shinhan, Piccolo and Buu deserve something, a proper send-off in Super at least. Not just a random quote that Toriyama gave in an interview. Anyway, so what do you guys think? Do you think there's a chance in Super for these characters to shine? Do you think they deserve it? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!